How are you today? Can you hear me? This is a test. This is a live board meeting test during a live board meeting lunch hour. Perfect. Thank you. We are ready.
We're ready? Are we ready, Regina? 7:16, we're going to get started again we're going to go to public hearings and on number 7C, staff. Oh,
I think it's also important to note Supervisor Gonzalez had a family emergency, and that's why she had to step away.
yeah,
I just thought
she won't be
she
back.
won't be back. Yeah.
Very serious family emergency, you might add.
Yeah, very serious. Okay, 7C, Regina.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Item 7C is Community and Economic Development Department Planning Division, a hearing to consider the adoption of a resolution denying the appeal to the Planning Commission's decision to approve conditional use permit 2022-002, subject to conditions, mitigated negative declaration 2022-12, mitigation monitoring program, and concurrence with the findings of fact supporting approval.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, Chief of Development Services. I wanted to just briefly make a couple comments before you commence and open the public hearing on this item. Just for clarification's sake, this project, as noted in the record, is a conditional use permit 2022. It was applied for in February of this year. So I know there's been a lot of discussions about the length of time associated with this development proposal. I will say it did not become a public application until that date of February of 2022. So I wanted to put that on the record for the public and anybody listening as well. And with that, my recommendation would be that you open and take in testimony on this item before you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I wanted to correct also the people out here saying that we've been working on this particular project for 2 years, or whatever amount they say. I've been working on getting some affordable housing in all the mountain area and the whole valley down here too, which we have passed a couple of them. For 4, 5, 6, 7 years, I get more calls from people wanting a place to live than I do almost anything as a supervisor. And when I started really getting serious about finding some property, we looked all over, and then we finally, Tom, how you say his last name from Self-Help, said they finally found some money. Well, that's when I started looking at different properties. We only could look at properties, just like any of you go out and buy property, you don't want people to know you're going to buy it. We don't make that public. You don't want to do that because whoever owns it's going to jack up the price. And so we started looking at properties, and and we did look all over Oakhurst. And for what the requirements are for housing like this, they really want to try to get close to facilities, schools, medical, grocery stores, drugstores, all that. And so the pieces that we looked further out of Oakhurst, for one thing, there was no sewer and water, so that cost, like the 3 hotels, it cost them $3 million to get that up there. When you have to do all that, that really adds up to the cost. So when we found this piece, that's when it started, and that's when they came to the county in February to start this. So as far as that piece of property, 2 years ago, I had no idea that piece was even going to be part of it, period. So don't try to put words in my mouth, please. And I've never, ever said that the public hearing is going to be any other time but 10:30, period. I say our meetings start at 9, we go to closed session to 10, we do our regular work, and then we go to public hearings. So when people say that I said that, I'm just going to tell you right now, I did not say that, and I never would. Okay, now then, any comments from the board? Okay, now we're going to open a public hearing on 7C to give comments from the public.
Yeah, it did.
If I may, I have a laser pointer to use on my PowerPoint. I want to make sure I don't blind the two women who are there, so I want to just do a test run. Are we okay there? If you look down, okay. And will everybody be able to see this? Once I do slideshow, just confirm. I want to make sure everyone in the audience can see this PowerPoint as well. You know, okay. I just did view show, so, okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, as well, and apologize for interrupting, I did want to just put it in the record, right? The presentation or the documentation that Mr. Titus is going to walk through, that is part of the public record. It's in the file. I just wanted to make that note, so.
Oh,
Yes.
they've already given it to you? They've already given it to you?
Yeah, we received that, I believe, Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon?
To clarify that, we submitted our comment letter on Friday with our experts' opinions, and we provided actually a copy of this PowerPoint to the county as well yesterday, I believe, before the noon hour. So they do have all this.
What was your name?
Michael Titus. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Wild, Carter, Tipton, and Fresno. I'm here on behalf of my clients, Filter Investments LLC and Drusilla Brady, who are appealing conditional use permit 2022-002 and mitigated negative declaration 2022-12. First, I want to say on behalf of my clients, and I believe what I got the uproar out in the hallway, thank you to this board for allowing this to be heard today. As I previously mentioned, we submitted our comment letter to the board last Friday. It contained our experts' opinions on our briefing on this matter, and this presentation is being used to affirm many of the main talking points, but we do not want to take away many of the case citations that and positions that and arguments that were contained within that comment letter. I see that says 3 minutes, but I believe I was told I have more than ample time. Okay, just making sure. So I want to do a quick project overview of the project site. The project is located right here. It is said to have 12 three-story buildings with 120 units, which will house over 340 residences, with the developer only requesting 150 parking spaces be allotted to the project. And I want to call attention to many of the main roadways and centers that will be impacted by this development. As we can see here, we have State Route 41 and Road 426, which is going to be the main road to get to the project. And along Road 426, we have commercial and shopping retail centers lining Road 426. And then we have Sierra Way located here, which is going to be the one road to get in and out of the project. And I want to point out that at the end of Sierra Way, we have Sierra Telephone Company, which provides critical infrastructure to the Oakhurst area, which I believe they submitted a comment letter on this matter yesterday, requesting that this board grant this appeal, as well as Oakhurst Elementary School located right here in the close vicinity to the project site. Now, regardless of whether you are someone who is for or against this project and believe that Oakhurst needs housing like this, and no one here is against housing developments and low-income housing getting put into Oakhurst. We understand there's a need. However, in order for a project like this to be approved, it must meet statutory laws and regulations. And as I mentioned, many of the sites to the law that I'm going to be bringing up here is within our comment letter. So for a project like this to go forward, it must meet the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA. CEQA serves to be a careful examination, fully open to the public, of environmental consequences of a given project, covering the entire project from start to finish. And under CEQA, the county must respond to issues raised by the public, like these appellants, by providing a good faith, reasoned analysis at a level of detail that matches the level of detail in the comments. And if the county were to disagree with any of the comments raised, it needs to address its objections in detail. And I want to point out that it has been held that conclusory statements without unsupported factual information is not sufficient. Now, this project was proposed by way of a mitigated negative declaration. And for reasons set forth in our comment letter and in this presentation, this project should not be approved by an MND, but should have a full environmental impact report prepared. And to clarify, an EIR is the heart of CEQA and alerts the public and its officials to environmental changes, and I want to point out, before they have reached an ecological point of no return. And in close or doubtful cases, an EIR should always be prepared. And the standard of review here is that if a commenting party, like these appellants, make a fair argument that the proposed project is going to have environmental impacts that have significant effect on the environment, the county must prepare an EIR, even if there is substantial evidence to the contrary. And we believe that we have more than met the threshold of a fair argument, which includes affirmation by expert witnesses. The first issue I want to raise is that the developer utilized erroneous vehicle trip generation data. Within the developer's operational statement, they were asked the question to estimate the number and type of vehicular trips per day that will be generated by the proposed development. They answered, and I quote, "We estimate 2 car trips per day per unit, which comes to about 140 trips per day." Now, as I stated, the project contemplates having 120 units. We know that 120 times 2 is not 140, it's 240. So you might be saying to yourself that this is just a simple typographical error. However, as I will show, public agencies relied on this data, and the 140 figure renders the operational statement inaccurate, which is a violation of CEQA. Caltrans provided their comments on this project on February 9, 2022. And they stated in point number 1 that the operational statement indicated the project anticipates 140 trips a day from future residences. So we could see that when Caltrans provided comments, they relied on that 140 figure. In its second comment there at the bottom, Caltrans requested a traffic management plan to identify the impacts on Road 426 and State Route 41. I want to point out that this was never done for this project despite Caltrans' requests. And as I stated, their comments were based on the 140 trip data. If they had accurate data, whether that was after the traffic study was performed, they could have had additional comments and concerns on the project. Additionally, the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District provided their comments on February 16, 2022. The evidence suggests that when they provided their comments, they only had access to the operational statement. So again, it's our belief that the control district only relied on the 140 trip figure, which we know is incorrect. Now, the Department of Public Works provided their opinions on the project on March 2nd, 2022. Again, the only data that they had in regards to vehicle trips was the 140 figure, which we know is wrong. And we believe that it's our argument that when the Department of Public Works was forming their opinions on what intersections to analyze, they relied on that figure and only stated that 2 intersections needed to be analyzed. So, as I pointed out, at the time of those public agencies forming their opinions, the only data they had was in the operational statement, which we know is incorrect. The traffic study was not performed until April 22nd, 2022, which postdates all of those comments. And the appellate's traffic engineer, Dan Smith, in his report and CV is attached to our comment letter, confirmed that this county must inform all public agencies that the 140 trip total was an understatement, which we believe has not occurred. Now, upon review of the traffic study, you will see that regardless of whether it was 140 trips or the correct 240 trips according to the developer, there was actually 809 trips that will be generated daily by this project. That's by the county's own engineer. So that 809 figure is 5 times higher than the 140 trip figure that was in the operational statement. And that leads to the conclusion that the legal standard was not met here. SEQA requires that the description of a project be accurate and consistent throughout the environmental document, the entire environmental document. The erroneous 140 trip figure is 5 times lower than the actual number of vehicle trips. That renders the project neither accurate or stable and is in violation of SEQA. Next, it's the appellate's argument that an inaccurate number of intersections were analyzed. The project's traffic analysis was limited to just 2 adjacent intersections. That's Road 426 and Road 425B and Road 426 and Road 427. So despite the close proximity to State Route 41 and Caltrans' request and concerns to have an analysis done, no other intersections were studied. And the appellate's traffic engineer, Dan Smith, confirmed in his report that more analysis is required. The Supreme Court has held, and I cited it within our comment letter, that regional impacts cannot be ignored. We have to go beyond the boundaries of this development on Sierra Way and see how it impacts Oakhurst as a whole. Now, here is an overhead view of the 2 intersections that were studied. We have the project site here in Sierra Way and Road 426 in Sierra Way, as well as 426 and Road 427. And also, I'm sorry, Road 425B, I believe, is right there. So we're those 2. But if you zoom out, you will see that there should have been at least 6 intersections that were studied along State Route 41, as well as, I believe, that Civic Circle here on Road 426. Again, that's the main thoroughway to get to the project, was never analyzed, as well as this road here, which would almost act as maybe a cut to the project for people to get to, instead of having to go an extra stoplight to State Route 41. Now, I want to point out again Caltrans' request to have a traffic management plan done to identify the potential impacts in the vicinity of State Route 41 and Road 426. Again, this was not done. A major issue with this project is that it does not adequately address on-site and off-site parking. Now, upon review of the staff report, on May 18, 2022, a letter from the developer to the county stated that where they admitted that due to the lack of buildable land, 2 parking spaces per unit cannot be accommodated on the site. They requested a concession that allows for a reduction to totaling 150 parking spaces. They stated that the development will include units for homeless individuals and less parking will be needed as residents will own fewer or no vehicles. Additionally, the developer or she will be making improvements to Sierra Way to allow for additional street parking. Now, here's a list of topics as to why there's inadequate parking issues. First off, the developer has presented no evidence that people experiencing homelessness or previously experiencing homelessness do not have a vehicle or not utilize the on-site parking. This was merely a statement without factual justification. Next, the project contemplates over 340 residences for only 150 parking spaces. That's double the amount of people that are going to be there for the amount of parking allotted. And we believe that this is going to lead into secondary effects into that surrounding area to many of those shopping centers in business parks that I called attention to. Now, it's our knowledge that local businesses and Oakhurst Elementary School compete for scarce parking resources on a daily basis, and this will only add fuel to the fire in competing for parking. Now, also I want to point out the developer would be making improvements to Sierra Way. However, those improvements were not within the project description or traffic study, and under CEQA, all of these issues must be addressed. Now, here's a picture of the funeral chapel. I believe the gentleman was here earlier who spoke on the continuance, that's located on Road 426 in Sierra Way. This was taken at a time during a normal funeral service on a weekday, and we can see that the parking lot here is at full capacity. If improvements are made to Sierra Way to widen it, those people are going to have to park on Sierra Way. The problem here is that the developer is saying that we can have residents parking on Sierra Way. That will continue the domino effect into a parking lot like my client's, Filter Investments LLC, when again, this picture was taken during normal business hours. And again, we believe that this will continue to affect other business parks, such as my other clients, Drusilla Brady's, or even Oakhurst Elementary School. So the scarce parking is a real issue. Now, in the appellate expert traffic engineer's Dan Smith report, he confirmed that the project lacks parking. And he stated that in his experience, and he has statistics that show that low-income people often own more than one vehicle. And Smith affirmed that the project's residents will, and I quote, poach parking on properties of neighbors. And he confirmed that the county must further analyze parking issues before approving this project. The next issue is that the developer cannot propose unidentified improvements to Sierra Way as a design feature. The developer's Sierra Way improvements are being proposed as a design feature as opposed to mitigation. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Such actions are a clear violation of CEQA. CEQA requires that the lead agency determine the extent of a project's impacts before it may apply mitigation measures to reduce those impacts, and that was not done here. The next is the impact on the air quality. The appellate's expert air quality engineer Ray Kapahi found that the staff report's findings of there not being a significant impact on the air quality were only speculative. Kapahi stated that the staff report needs to address which air quality plans would be impacted by this project. And under CEQA, the lead agency must consider whether incremental effects of the project are cumulatively considerable, and such analysis was not present within the staff report. And in Kapahi's experience, he stated that other projects similar to this development often resulted in violations of the state's 1-hour NOx rule and 24-hour PM10 air quality standards. Now, Kapahi also found that during construction, the project would release toxic air contaminants from diesel fuel equipment, and this creates a negative health risk to the nearby homes, offices, and I know there's medical facilities around the area and school. He concluded that there is a fair argument that the project could result in a significant environmental impact, and that would result in meeting that standard that an EIR must be prepared. Now, when it came to utilities, the developer was asked how water is supplied to the proposed development. They answered that water is supplied by Hillview Water Company. Now, upon review of the staff report, on May 15, 2022, California American Water provided their will serve letter to the developer. However, within the letter, the will serve letter, Meadowbrook was listed as the provider, not Hillview. Now, upon the appellate's research, we found that Meadowbrook is located in Merced, not Oakhurst. Because of this, the county must identify the facility that will convey water from Merced to Oakhurst, and this was not done here. On another topic that deals with utilities, the county stated that they would provide wastewater to the project. However, there was no discussion of wastewater in the ISMND. The next is the impact on vehicle miles traveled. The traffic study contained no discussion of transportation impacts. The ISMND only contained an assumption that affordable housing would have a less significant impact on the environment. I want to point out that an assumption is not substantial evidence or justification for the county not to perform a VMT analysis. Now, a couple extra points here is that Oakhurst does not have a public transportation system, and many residents commute long distances to Fresno and Madera. And upon his review of why the lack of VMT, traffic engineer Dan Smith affirmed that there is a fair argument that the project would significantly increase vehicle miles traveled. The next is the impact to the existing bridge structure. This is the bridge that's located on 426 between 41, State Route 41 and Sierra Way. And the ISMND suggested that this project could have a potentially significant impact to the existing bridge structure and identify mitigation to minimize such impacts. However, the ISMND did not include any description of the potential impacts to the bridge structure or any explanation as to how the identification mitigation will reduce those impacts. Therefore, due to the lack of detail, the ISMND is incomplete. Next, the appellates believe that the project's mitigation measures are inadequate. For fire mitigation, has MM1 stated in its entirety, the applicant shall conduct routine fire abatement, emphasizing grass and brush located around the facilities on the project. I want to point out that fire right now obviously is a very big issue, obviously up in the Oakhurst area and, as we know, in Mariposa right now. So a statement like this is vague on its face because what does abatement entail? And the terms grass or brush are not sufficient to meet this standard. So also there's no discussion of the frequency of abatement. How often will this be occurring? Once a week, once a month, twice a year? There's no discussion of it. So again, because of the lack of detail, the ISMND is incomplete. When it comes to transportation mitigation, there's a discussion in the ISMND that states that the project could have a potentially significant impact on the intersections of 426, 425B, and 426 Sierra Way, and that mitigation is required to reduce impacts to a less than significant level. Now, when it came to Tran MM2, there was a discussion about physical improvements to those two intersections. However, there was no discussion or analysis explaining how this mitigation will reduce the impacts of these intersections to a less than significant level, again rendering the ISMND incomplete. Now, Trans MM3 suggested that work schedules be staggered during construction. Again, there was no discussion about how these staggered construction work schedules would actually reduce potentially significant impacts, again rendering the ISMND incomplete. Now, in conclusion, in our comment letter, in our experts' opinions, and in this presentation, we believe that the appellates have far more than met the threshold of a fair argument in compelling at least an EIR to be done on this project. And I want to point out again that the experts have confirmed and made a fair standard, that have confirmed this fair standard has been met. Now, on behalf of my clients, I want to make a point that nobody here again is against housing developments, growing the community of Oakhurst, because that is what Oakhurst needs. However, we cannot push a project like this through. A project like this cannot be pushed through just because we say we like it and people need homes. There needs to be statutory laws and regulations that are followed. And I believe I heard this board state earlier that they must uphold those laws. So that is why we are requesting, that's why we believe that this project is in violation of CEQA and this project should not be approved and the board must grant this appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Again, my name is Bob Casper. I have a preliminary matter of point of inquiry. Since this procedure is being fractionated and carried over into two procedures and our comments now are being read into the record, does this preclude us commenting later? No. Because if it did, then the developer, who has been granted a de facto 1 month period of time to prepare, can rebut all our points without our chance to revise, extend, and counter-rebut.
It'll be a public hearing again, totally.
Pardon?
It'll be a public hearing again, same way. You'll get to.
So we get a second bite of the apple, as they say.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well then, aside from the technical objections, which are well detailed, It begs the question, who thought this was a good idea exactly, and why? I mean, the proponents appear to be Tom Wheeler and Bobby McCauley. Were they sitting around one day saying, we need an issue that will gain widespread public support? Whereupon the other said, I know, let's put government housing, and that's what it is, regardless of what you want to call it, right directly in the cultural, physical, geographical, and traditional epicenter of Oakhurst. That's a good idea. The best argument, I doubt well, maybe they did say that. The best argument against this project makes itself with a simple map of the project, which has not been produced to the public. The first I saw was in the council's presentation. Descriptions notwithstanding, people can see where this is, they know what this is, and they know the implications of it. And I think the fact that that map was not produced and made generally available is a tacit admission by itself that there's no support for this. And it's an acknowledgement that the proponents, which appear to be Supervisor Wheeler and Bobby McCauley, and the developer, that even with the veil of secrecy and expediency that this has proceeded under, half the community shows up in protest. And if you put the map up there, the other half will show up too. So there's something very flawed with this process, and it still begs the question as to what forces are driving it. Thank you.
Was the map produced in the Planning Commission meeting?
Yes, there's numerous maps and identification of the project site.
I just want the public
throughout
to
the
know
backup, and has been since at the planning.
Thank you.
Take two of my comment earlier. This is being put onto the record. Good morning, supervisors. My name is Mark Reed. I live in Oakhurst, and I'm a candidate for County Supervisor, District 5. Today, I'm speaking as a grand Papa Bear on behalf of several Mama Bears and Papa Bears in our fine community. I'm not against this housing project in our district. It's very difficult to talk about this housing project because of the great need created by a decade-long mismanagement and inattention to the issue. In a recent post, our supervisor acknowledged that citizens, businesses, and social services over the past 3 to 4 years have petitioned Supervisor Wheeler and the board to bring medium-income housing to the area. Tom and Chief of Staff Bobby McCauley have planned this project for more than 2 years, and they report that it's well thought out, in their opinion. Both consistently stated the project will create 120 workforce housing units that are desperately needed, along with 150 parking spaces. For more than a year, we've heard the same headline with no details from the supervisor or his assistant. This project has lacked transparency from the beginning, in my opinion. The Planning Commission scheduled the CUP hearing on election night at 6:30. The details were released to the adjacent property owners 10 days prior. And yes, Tom, I do realize and I understand the Planning Commission have their regular meetings on the first Tuesday of every month. And at that hearing, the project and the location were revealed for the first time. And of course, stakeholders objected to the negative impacts of parking, traffic, community safety, property value decline, and overall location issues. The question was asked specifically, is transitional housing part of the project? And the representative from She Enterprises said no. Residents can stay as long as they want. And again, I feel we were not told the truth. The transitional housing component of the project was challenged because of its proximity to a middle school, elementary school, high school, and the Boys and Girls Club. The first vote by the Planning Commission was a 2-2 vote, and the application for the CUP failed primarily because of the location. However, the truth always comes out. The facts were revealed in a post by our supervisor's assistant, Bobby McCauley. Again, and I quote, the transitional housing component of this project fits in well with the care court system that is being developed by the state. 12 months of coordinated care for those looking to get clean and off the streets. This will be a carrot and stick approach with offenders. Let me read an excerpt from the care court website. Care court targets unhoused people throughout the state that can apply to housed people as well. Though promoted as applying to a narrow category of people with severe mental health conditions, the program's criteria are highly subjective. adults diagnosed with schizophrenia spectrum or other psychotic disorders whom a judge finds lacking in judgment are eligible. The proposed location for this project lacks basic common sense and should be rejected. I'm only speaking against the location. I believe the project should be brought back with a different location specified. We need the housing in Oakhurst. A better location would truly show innovation from this Board of Supervisors. However, if this board approves this project at its current proposed location, well then, Supervisor Rogers, Supervisor Frazier, Supervisor Poitras, and Supervisor Gonzalez, the harm that may come to a child, to that child's family, and to our community rests on your decision. I urge this board to vote no and reject the project at its current location. Request the developers to bring back the proposal with a more suitable location. The project will not even be completed if approved for 3 to 4 to 5 years. We're not in such a rush to put our children in harm's risk. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Tony McLean Joseph. I'm a citizen of Madera County, a doctor of physical therapy, owner of Oakhurst Physical Therapy with my wife. We are on Sierra Way. We've worked in Oakhurst for more than 22 years. Crystal Tower Award winner, Golden Apple Award winner, and as the county knows, that's because we give ourselves and our time and our fortunes back to the community. And I don't take that lightly. On 10 days prior to the event of June 7th, I wrote a letter to the Planning Commission because they said put it in writing. So I did, and I opposed it. And in that time frame, the day before, I got a phone call from Bobby McCauley. And Bobby McCauley, I don't see you here. Are you here, Bobby? Can you just stand up if you are? Okay, you're not here. He stated that I am working diligently. My fingerprints are all over this, and I am looking for 18% of the 340 people to be homeless to move into that spot. That's 60 individuals that will live in that location. That's a quote, and again, the county council can ask me to raise my hand. I will verify that under oath. He made that comment. I got a phone call later from Mr. Burdette, who is on the commission, whatever it's called, my apologies.
Planning Commission.
Thank you. He recused himself from this, so therefore I lost an advocate that night on June 7th. I did not have support to have someone tell me that I can have an extra 31 days, which he said I should be entitled to another 30 days to do some homework. That left me in the lurch, and I had 3 minutes to make my rebuttal to these big guys that have more than their fair share to do this, okay? I asked Mr. Wheeler to get together. I called him and texted him on many occasions. And I believe it was June 20th. I got together with Tom Wheeler. He invited me over to his house. I sat down with him on his couch. He did not turn off NASCAR race. NASCAR race was more important to me. I told you I've been here for 22 years. I'm concerned about my legacy to pass on for the health care of this community. He did not turn off NASCAR. That's rude. I'm too ignorant to say I was insulted at the time because I thought I had a fighting chance to take care of this. I said Bobby McCauley was talking about transitional housing. He says Bobby McCauley doesn't know what he's talking about. Please, I will go on record. You can do whatever you need to do legally. Bobby McCauley doesn't know what he's talking about. So now I go into this meeting not knowing where my faith should lie. And I want to talk now about me as a medical professional. I've been doing this since 1983, served in the U.S. Army. I've been in convalescent homes, home health, traveled up and down the toughest parts of Fresno because I was a guy. I went to we call it the U. The U is the ghetto, if you would, the toughest part of Fresno. I went there to serve. I got the same pay that the person did when they went to Woodward Park, okay? I'm not afraid of serving. I'm not afraid of helping. As a medical professional, I will speak out against the flawed parking offered by high-density apartment complex. As a doctor of physical therapy and a professional who has performed home health physical therapy, you have done the necessary homework to improve access to the very, you have not done the necessary homework to improve the access for the very care you preach. From a density standpoint, offering a senior citizen housing is wonderful. However, those who require health care will be ignored by this flaw. Take a senior citizen who left the hospital to convalesce in their home or their apartment. Friends will want to come to and check on them, offering them food. Pastors or lay clergy will come and stop by and check in on their well-being. Registered nurses will come to their aid of the invalid multiple times a week. In-home support services will come to the home for 12, maybe 24 hours a day if they can't care for themselves. Physical therapy will perform home health. Occupational therapy will teach basic skills to master independence in living. Oh, let's not forget the family who care about their loved ones. That's 7 different citizens all driving a different automobile who will need to park near the home of the person that's homebound. Now, one skeptic in the room will say that they won't all arrive at once, and he's right. But tell me this, where will the friend park who wants to bring groceries or Tupperware from the meal train? What about the wraparound parking for the care that they talk about but don't mention what it is? Where will they park? Why should family park far away? They may not be from the area. The medical professionals who will see this one person a day, ask them to park far away and the patient's apartment, from the patient's apartment, and the efficiency of health care just became bogged down. Now, add 5 or 10% of citizens to that one complex from this high-density apartment complex. It requires in-home support service. Some will require friends, clergy, home health aides. Where are they going to park? Your equation of less parking is flawed. You place profits over the quality of health of the very community I work to serve, to create citizens fit for life. Thank you very much. And thank you, County Council, for taking my sworn affidavit that I do stand by my words.
Good afternoon, supervisors. This time I'm not going to ask for a continuance or appeal. I want to give you a little bit of history of our family business.
Hey, Troy, you got to say your name and pull it a little closer, too.
My name is Troy Brady.
Yeah.
I'm representing Brady Enterprises. We've been up here, we've owned a property since '76, and in 2000 we moved all our investments up to mainly Madera. We have had, burned down buildings and whatever. But in the meantime, since 2015, we have worked hard on developing a urgent care. And we did that with our family funds to buy the building, demo it, get it ready for Camarina so they can put in their urgent care in our location right next to this project that you're requiring. These funds didn't come from county or grants or anything else. They came from our personal funds. Also, within the last 5 years, we have worked with Madera County, who are our tenants up on 426, and we've set up a wellness program for the people to come up and eat and shower and do laundry for this community. We have worked diligently. We've donated and done a lot of things for this community. And the sad part is, I deal with the sheriff department on a regular basis. And for example, June 11th, I sat on one of our pieces of property because of vandalism. Well, 3 sheriffs sat on a patrol boat on Bass Lake. I had to sit 1 hour waiting for an officer to come back up to Madera. Now you tell me how this is going to get better if we don't correct our infrastructure first to do all this, these projects, because we do need our sheriff department, we do need low-income housing, but we have to correct our infrastructure first. We need sheriffs. I waited 1 hour. Only reason I got an officer there is I told them I was going to file a complaint. 3 minutes later, after I drove down the road, they said they got there. I got 2 officers instead of 1 to respond. Oh, what a quinkydink. How about medical service? We got 2 ambulances up there. You want to put people who need low income and everything else, sure, I got urgent care right next door. It doesn't cut it. You know, the footprint that they want to put all this project on, they want to go higher, they want to change zoning, which is not right, because I don't want to look at 45 feet tall. I want to look, if I was going to look at something, I'm going to look at 35 feet tall. The footprint doesn't work. If you all know about the water, the fire from when the lodge burnt down, there was plenty of water up above, but our pipes haven't been changed. They're clogged. There wasn't enough water, it cut off, and obviously the hotel burned down. Now, the other hotels were required to put in a 550,000-gallon water tank, backup generator, and all these other things for their footprint for those hotels. I was going to do a development, and I was going to be required to put in a water tank, backup generator to supply water. Granted, I'm not on Hillview Water, but needless to say, I was going to be required to do that. Hotels are hooked up to Hillview Water, or now American Water. They need to put in, they don't show it on this footprint, a water tank, a backup generator. I don't want those tanks to run dry, and we know that those pipes haven't been fixed. That has to be addressed. We have to fix. I can't even get our gutters cleaned along 426. We pay over $40,000 just on that strip in property taxes. I can go down there right now. There's this much dirt in all our gutters. They haven't been cleaned in 2 years. Now, we're going to start a project. How about fixing our sidewalks? Fixing all our other things. We can't do that. I got a 41. Wheeler says, oh, it's Caltrans' problem. Well, it's on 41. I got a building up on 41. The sidewalk buckles. It looks like a skateboard ramp. I'm surprised no one's been sued here because it's been addressed. We're not doing this. We need to concentrate on our infrastructure, fix it, before you try to put in low-income housing. We do need it. Don't get me wrong. But this isn't the location for it, for one, because the footprint doesn't work. It's too small for the type of project that they're trying to develop. It doesn't work, period. But we do need to work on our infrastructure. And things need to be addressed up there in Madera, up in Oakhurst, to have things done. Fire, sidewalks, just general maintenance. As a taxpayer, I expect it. And I shouldn't be out there cleaning the gutters in front of my strip of 41. That's about all I have to say about this project.
Thank you, Troy.
Hi, back again. John Perro, Awani. I'm going to take a little different tack on this. I attended the planning meeting on June 7th, and what I saw that night absolutely disgusted me. An unprofessional meeting. There were, in my decades of attending meetings and being familiar with the Robert's Rules of Order, this meeting was one of the most unprofessional meetings I've ever attended. 5 people spoke against this proposal, citing various safety issues, traffic parking issues, lack of proper two-way egress, variances, and so forth, that normal developers and homeowners never received because it fell under a special class of HUD rules and effects on commercial business owners in the area. And that's one of the things that people get wrong here. They think, when you hear the word, oh, we need more rent, we all hear this thing, we need more rentals up here. And they think, well, yeah, we need to get more rentals. But when you say low-cost housing, that's a whole different classification. That's HUD. That's taxpayers' subsidies that are bringing this in. That's variances that the normal person doesn't get when they develop their property. This is special circumstances. And as an individual, that's what upsets me the most about this. Why do I not get the breaks? Why are we not all playing on the same level field? That's what upsets me. So there were the speakers that spoke, and then there was a vote, and that vote was 2-2. It deadlocked. That should have been it. It didn't pass. Then a break was called. Guess what happened after the break? County council walks in. And she says, oh, by the way, we did some things wrong before, and we've opened ourselves up to litigation, and we're going to have to redo the vote. That's a violation of the Brown Act. And yet it was allowed to proceed. So after more pleading by one of the commissioners, then one of the commissioners said, let's defer this for another time period. And then the self-help representative, Ms. Garcia, says, well, we can't do that. If that happens, we can't go on with the project because we will lose our funding. So the safety of 300 plus people is going to be mitigated or going to be determined on whether somebody gets their funding or not. Long story short was, it got passed 3-1. By the intimidation of the county council and more arm twisting, it got passed. That's what was disgusting about this whole thing. And then the representative, anyway, I talked about that. So that's the basic thing that really frustrated me about this. If we're going to have housing, we all need housing. But I want to tell you something. We got a shortage of rentals in this county. And one of the reasons we have a shortage of rentals is because of government policies. Guess what? Government makes the policies, government creates the rules, and then they try to think they're going to be smart enough to fix the rules. So when you can't evacuate someone out of your rental in 30 days, and it takes you 6 months to a year to evict them, and then they trash the house, what do you think the landlord's going to do to that house? Turns it into an Airbnb. But here's the problem. Who's in charge of determining whether Airbnbs can go forward? You guys. You should have put the lid on this Airbnb stuff way back when it started. So now you've got outside developers coming in and buying up this property, turning them into Airbnbs, creating hotels in residential-owned sites. This should not be allowed. So I just want to wrap it up here and say, I want rentals too, but I want a free market approach to building rentals where everybody's on the same playing field and the taxpayers aren't subsidizing this for everybody else. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Heather Brady, resident of Oakhurst, over 20 years, daughter-in-law of Drusilla Brady. We own the property where Camarina Health and the urgent care are located. One problem that I have with the location and providing these promises to people, low-income housing and people living there, is that I know we don't have the professionals in Oakhurst to serve them. I know that if they go to Camarina for the doctor's visit that they need, they'll be referred to professionals in Fresno. We don't have them in Oakhurst. So you're talking about having to take, a journey down the hill and back, and a way to support that for people. It happens to us, but I mean, for people that don't have the means to do it easily, it's not fair to say, come live here. Those services aren't available right now. again, Airbnb may be one of the reasons. I know that they aren't required to use the CUP permits anymore. Is that correct? You can just have an Airbnb now?
You got to get a business permit and everything, have it inspected.
Business permit, but you don't have to have a CUP, like change the zoning.
No, that's for bed and breakfast.
Yeah, okay. Well, I know I have neighbors, I lost our longtime neighbors to an Airbnb, but you have no recourse really with people just coming and going and vacationing on that property. The owners don't live there, so if we have issues with them, it's like talking to someone that's going to be gone in 2 days, and what do they care? It feels strange, and I'm saying if we had less of those and we had more houses available to rent, that would be helpful. There are 3 other locations where we have low-income housing in Oakhurst. I looked them up online, so it's not that we don't have them. But we also have a problem with jobs. We don't have jobs available in Oakhurst. And when it shuts down for the winter, in fact, one of the planning commissioners was saying how much he loves to come to Ducey's at Bass Lake in the wintertime because nobody's around. It's so nice, it's so quiet. He can have coffee and breakfast and not compete with any tourists. But we don't even start providing the extra jobs for like the kids in the community that, you know, are out of school for high school, summertime, until May, June. And then they know they don't have those anymore. They go back to school. But we have thrift stores. We have a Rite Aid, a McDonald's. And I don't think it's right to assume that people are going to come and live there and clean the hotels. Because that's not a progression in their life. That's just saying, hey, come up and be a cleaning person for the hotels. I mean, that's not a good standard of living. Anyway, what I'm saying is it's inconvenient to live in Oakhurst anyway. And the services you need are going to be down here, as I know from experience. The health care you need is going to be down here. Any imaging you need will be down here. My son needed an x-ray and care for a broken finger, but they couldn't do it in Oakhurst. And Adventist Health doesn't work out of the location on Victoria Lane anymore, and they tell you they're not an emergency room. That's strictly for a referral if you need to have, you know, if a doctor tells you need something done. You can't walk in there and get emergency care. There is none. We pay a membership fee for an ambulance service when we have 2 of them, 2 ambulances. So when they're in Fresno, they have to come back up the hill. And so people wait. And we know we're, you know, rural. We're not you know, the city of Oakhurst. So we do. Like my husband said, he had to wait an hour for the sheriff. I've had times myself where I've had to wait when I've had problems with a homeless person on the property because I was collecting all of their things and I needed to find, you know, take them down to the sheriff's department. But she stopped me in the middle of it and we almost had a fight. I was on the phone with 911, but nobody came. That was up to me to take care of it. And they couldn't believe it. Oh, no one came to help you? That you were on 911, no one responded? No, no one did because they're too spread out. We need to solve these problems before we add to our problems. And yes, we do need low-income housing, but not right in the center of Oakhurst, and not until we get these problems fixed. Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Diane Flaherty. I've been a 20-year resident of Oakhurst and have raised my children here. I already addressed earlier, and I know it wasn't on the record, about the issue with the homeless population being allowed to live in this housing project, and I expressed my concerns already. But it's interesting, when you love the Lord, He tells you, okay, you have this you have written down, but I want you to do this now. So I would like to use the rest of my 2 minutes and 36 seconds to pray. So Heavenly Father, I thank you, God, that you are Lord of all, God. Jesus, you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, God. And I pray for my county. I pray for my supervisors, God. I pray for righteous men and women to have these positions of authority to be put in place. God, I pray for corruption to be exposed. I thank you for wonderful neighbors such as Mr. McLean, God. He is a patriot. He is a wonderful husband and provides services to our community, Lord God. They're hardworking business owners. They're people who have worked all their lives and have been able to save up enough retirement to live in this beautiful Oakhurst Mountain community. There are people raising children. We want the best for our children, Lord God, and we're not getting that. We have a system that's broken, a government system that is very broken. It's very corrupt, Lord God, but I thank you that we still have the freedom to speak our minds. We have the freedom to hold you as Lord of all. This says, in God we trust, and I pray for the fear of God to come upon us, Lord. We need truth. We need to stop lying. We need to stop being greedy. And Lord, so I pray that your will be done, that those who truly need affordable housing will be able to get that assistance, but that it won't be from the government. It'll be from the church or private enterprises. Because Lord, when you inspired our founding fathers to write that amazing Constitution, it did not include welfare. That's not the purpose of government. So Lord, I thank you for the freedom that you have given us to speak out, and I pray for freedom in this country, God, and I declare we're one nation under God, and we are indivisible, and we still have liberty, and there still is justice for all. In Jesus' name, amen.
My name is Clyde Schaefer, and I appreciate the time to be here before you, so thank you for letting us chat about this in a candid approach and fashion. I believe in common sense, and so I'll keep this real short. I look at this project and I see so many risk areas. I see the risk areas of traffic, risk areas of parking, risk areas of increased crime. I see risk areas of impacts to our children with the schools located so close. I see risk areas of increased air pollution, water resources, risk areas of waste removal. So many risk areas that need to be addressed, and from what I've seen, they have not been addressed. And so I would just implore you, members, to remember that you are working for the citizens of Oakhurst, that we have elected you, and we're looking to each one of you to make the wise decisions, the best for our community, the best for each individual, the best for the kids in that community. And that needs to be addressed. And so I would implore you to stop the nonsense. This is not a sound location. It's not the best for the community. It's not the best for a majority of the people. And so I would urge you to end this and vote no. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Bruce Gray, and I'm here representing Madera Oversight Coalition, MOC. Just want to make one comment to get on the record. Apparently, you're going to have to sign a concession based on SHE, and that concession is for a 55-year agreement. And apparently, everything runs with the property, such as parking. Now, should something happen, heaven forbid, that this self-help goes out of business, and everybody has to move out, you still have the concession of only 120 parking places. And you have more than that, you need more than that to meet county ordinance. So how can you sell something that doesn't even meet county ordinance? So you're going to have a piece of property sitting there that nobody can buy, nobody can rent, because there's not enough parking, unless they mothball several of the complexes, and then who's going to make money doing that? Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon, Tom Collishaw, CEO, Self-Help Enterprises. And, I just want to reiterate a few things and just mention a few things. We, as I mentioned earlier, we received a significant amount of information last Friday afternoon. So the request for a continuance was simply to have time to sift through this. We take all of these comments seriously. We want to make sure that we have the proper answers to them. So we will be providing those. I won't today because I want to make sure that we go through all this. But I also just want to mention a couple things that have been missing from any of the discussion so far today. One is Self-Help Enterprises has been around for 57 years. We're a private nonprofit corporation. We have served Madera County for all of those 57 years, doing numerous projects, working in tandem with the county. We have a commitment to the county, including 6 current rental projects that are up and operating, 2 in the city of Madera, 2 in Parksdale, 1 in Lavina, and 1 in Oakhurst that we purchased about 2 years ago to preserve it as an affordable housing project. Our projects are an open book. You can go to selfhelpenterprises.org. We have nearly 50 complexes around the valley now. We have addresses to all of them. People can go see them. They can touch them and feel them. And we stand by the work we do for working families and other low-income families in the valley. There's also been no mention about housing need. There's different estimates these days that you see, but at the low end, we're about 1.2 million units short in the state of California. I've seen estimates from experts up to 1.8 million. And Madera County is part of that. And that lack of housing affects affordability in a direct way. It affects our homeless population. And again, Oakhurst and Madera are part of that challenge. That's the challenge we're committed to helping improve. There's also no mention of the density bonus program that we utilized because of the housing, and that there are certain concessions that have to be granted through the density bonus project. That was not mentioned by the attorneys or anybody else. It was one of the supervisors mentioned earlier on a different item, the environmental laws in California, that they make projects expensive. Picking apart CEQA reviews is unfortunately part of the world of development in California, not just for affordable housing, but for other projects for whatever reason people don't want to see built in their area. So this is a classic. This is not unusual. I would also just mention there's a few ironic things to me. Mr. Brady, we have already provided, Camarena Health has already, your tenant has already provided a letter of unequivocal support. They're a partner. We've worked with them closely in the past, and they do not see an incompatibility of uses in that area. I also found it a little bit ironic that we were trying to, because we heard that there were concerns about Sierra Way, so we offered to improve the whole street because we heard a comment that they were substandard, and that's been turned around now to suggest, well, there's a problem with the environmental review because they didn't provide enough information on that. That was us trying to be good neighbors. I also just want to clarify that there are no transitional housing units in this project. These are fully occupied, year-round units. Some of them will be set aside for what are known as permanent supportive housing units, which will have a range of services similar to our project's Sugar Pine Village that we just opened in Madera in December, where we were blending some of those units with other working low-income families. That's what this project is. And I would also just mention that this project is a public-private partnership, because a big part of this is we will have an investor who, and it'll be a limited partnership that owns it. So that's very much private money as well as some public money that we will apply for this type of housing. So I just want to mention those few things. We welcome this continued dialogue on this project. We want to be good neighbors. We want to work through these issues for reasonable concerns and mitigations, and we're dedicated to that and working with the county and the neighbors on those things. Thank you.
You're going to, oh, she's filling the paper out.
Hi, good afternoon, supervisors. This is Madeline Harris from Leadership Council. I just wanted to encourage you to continue pursuing this affordable housing project. You know, one of the things that we look at Leadership Council in collaboration with disadvantaged communities throughout Madera County is the need for affordable housing here in the county. So when we look at the regional housing needs allocation, the county has far surpassed its allocation for moderate income and above moderate income, especially with the new growth areas in Riverstone and Tesoro Viejo. And we haven't gotten even close to meeting the low income, very low income housing brackets for the RHNA. So this would be a really great way to get at that. And fulfill the requirements the HCD has given the county. So I would encourage you to continue working with self-help towards making this happen. Thank you.
Any others here? We got 3 online too, just as soon as we get this done.
Hi, my name is Lori Schaefer, and I've been living in the area for about 8 years. And
I missed your name, sorry.
Lori Schaefer.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually commended you at one time for bringing those trash cans in when we had the COVID issue. Yeah. And as you can see, even mentioning that issue, what happens? People are people. They do things and they make messes, and we've seen a lot of issues with situations with what we're trying to talk about right now. My concern is it sounds like it's very humanitarian to do this for people and provide all these things, and that there are obviously some issues. There's not enough housing for them. However, in the mountain area, I think, okay, you got Madera County. So you go, okay, let's take care of Madera County. We have this county. You're in a city. You've got lots of resources. You've got hospitals. You've got all places to take care of. You've got the Salvation Armies. You've got the Provarello houses in Fresno that can take care of people that need help. And you're talking about not having homeless people there, but that seems like it's not sounding like that is what we're hearing. Some people are saying, no, there's not going to be homeless. But Collie says, oh, no, it's not transitional housing. Well, now I'm hearing there is, then it's not. I don't really know from what I'm hearing. It sounds like to me there's not a lot of truth coming out, and that concerns me. We are isolated from a lot of facilities that would help people. And when I first heard about them going, this makes no sense. It makes no sense. We're up here in the mountains. It's hard enough as it is. Okay, well, we need housing for people that are working in motels and hotels. And wait a minute, we don't even have industry that's going to really support them to get them out of their situation. Where are they going to go to get bigger jobs? We don't really have any industry up in that Oakhurst area. What's our biggest place? I mean, you guys tell me. Where are you planning for these people to actually get out of their situation? If it's supposed to be a humanitarian thing, helping these people, where are they supposed to go? They're not going to improve their situation, right? What, are they going to step up and be a better hotel cleaner? I mean, I don't know. But we know there's more resources, more places for them to get better jobs, to be good citizens and help contributing to the community. So that's just kind of just, to me, a common sense thing. And I mean, I'm not into lots of it, I'm just coming as going, what is going on? This makes absolutely no sense to me. I've never even spoke to you guys before, other than I did commend you on doing something that would help when you see trash everywhere. But where is Mr. Self-Help going to be? Is he going to be there self-helping? Are you going to be there to help provide for the people that need to gain? I don't know. I mean, you live in what, Merced? Is there programs that are going to be around? And I think somebody else talked about the infrastructure. We don't have it there to help people. So that's just questions that I have that maybe you guys can think about and ponder, maybe answer. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to go online now. Let's see. Dan, you're first, I guess. I got on the list here.
Can you hear me now? I tried to unmute myself.
Yep, we can hear you, buddy.
Okay, thanks. Dan Metz, Oakhurst. I'm asking that the resolution be denied and that the appeal be allowed to go forward. And I request that that be done today. We're prepared. It's too bad the proponent isn't. He had the same amount of time or more than the public had. Am I okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
me that wasn't. I'm sorry.
Sneeze.
Sorry for sneezing at you, Dan. It had nothing to do with your comment.
Must be the pizza.
Yeah, your comment was nothing to sneeze at. I apologize.
I agree with all that the first attorney had to say. The mitigated negative declaration is terribly deficient, and an EIR is required. My primary concern, in addition to all of his comments, are about the location and the proximity to the school. We've all heard of Uvalde, Sandy Hook, and a number of other, Columbine, and a number of other cases. We don't want that to happen here. And with the housing that's planned, I hear that transitional housing is not included. I think that's just kind of slicing and dicing the words a little bit. It probably is true that there is no transitional housing, but there is permanent supportive housing, and there is care court. The only difference between permanent housing is that, and transitional housing, as I understand it, is that permanent housing, the occupant is not kicked out. But in the case of transitional housing, there is a time limit. It's the same people. So I think we need to be careful about the words we use, and because words have meaning, and meanings convey thoughts. I have a whole litany of other objections, and it has primarily to do with the substandardness of the housing and the location. One issue is why 45 feet for only 3 stories? It seems to me that 10 feet is sufficient. In fact, 9 feet is sufficient for per floor, and that makes only 27 feet plus the pitch of the roof. I don't think 45 feet is necessary. And like the gentleman said, why would he want to look at 45 feet? Of course, parking is another substandard issue, density, fire, and a number of other things. In the assumption that you go ahead and defer continue the hearing to September, I'll reserve my comments, my additional comments until then. But I do ask that you deny the resolution and allow the appeal to go forward. Thank you.
Sue O'Connor.
Hi, thank you. I am a total proponent for affordable housing, and I do believe that we need affordable housing up here. I think the problem has been made worse by the Airbnbs that have consumed the available housing here. However, in relation to this particular project, my concern is about fire and evacuation. and the additional amount of people that would need to be evacuated, and apparently the assumption is they will not have their own cars. And I find that to be very concerning, because when it's time to evacuate, you got to go. And I don't know what the plan the county would have to evacuate people of that number without cars. In addition to serving that building in case of a fire, do we even have an engine that can go up that high? I don't know. I hope the answer is yes, but I'm very concerned about the safety aspect of this project. But I am supportive of affordable housing, and I want to thank the organization that's trying to make affordable housing happen. I don't think this is the right place, and I think the scope is too big, and I think there's more infrastructure that is necessary to be able to support this amount of people. That's all.
Thank you. Mark Sobel.
Hi, this is Mark. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mark Sobel, Oakhurst. Since when does public street parking figure into required parking for any commercial or private application? I believe that's a really bad precedent if you approve it in that form. The waiver is really designed for places like retirement homes, where you might have, I'll call it 100 rooms, and you don't need 200 parking spots because a lot of these people can't even leave the building without assistance. It's not really for this type of project. And you do not really have to approve this waiver. You can say it does not work for this project. It's just one of the things that the developer can throw at you and look for the waiver. In other words, the waiver is optional. In your decision, the waiver is optional. How are our senior citizens going to get to the second and third floor? Are they planning on an elevator? Severely limits the idea that this is going to be valuable senior citizen housing. For safety and security, it should be fenced. And also, I'm really concerned about the ability to spy on children from upper floors at the adjacent school. It's not something I want my teenage daughter to have people looking at her from a distance like this through a telescope or binoculars. Other Oakhurst apartments and condominiums already have the 2+ parking requirements. And if you drive around their facilities every night, they are nearly full. This issue cannot be ignored. Now, I know we need housing, but it needs to be in the right location that fits into the community. Do no harm should be the motto when someone comes before you asking for special situations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any other? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing now. What's your pleasure, board, unless you got a question?
I think we'll have to keep the public hearing open.
Oh, yeah, we're going to keep it open right now.
And I just want, so your August 10th was the problem, right? So the 9th was, but we need to get this done quicker. I think August 16th is the next meeting. Does that give enough time from the 10th? I think that's.
My wife and I own Oakhurst Physical Therapy, and at lunchtime I spoke to my wife and asked, would September work, and she said yes. So now I need to go back and redo patient care and schedules for that. I'm not asking for anything that is not unrealistic in trying to schedule a medical practice. So I would like to stick with the September date.
So 16th wouldn't work for you?
Mr. Chairman?
August 16th?
No. I went out at lunchtime and spent it with my wife to look at the schedule and try to make it work. And no, if I can if the man with the, representing the other company can delay it, I need for that part to be in September. And I'll leave it at that. All right? And I appreciate that you had sympathy at that moment. And my wife appreciates the empathy that you provided.
Yeah, and so that'll be, the 16th is already 3 weeks out. 1, 2, 3. It'd be another, something like 7 weeks from today. I'm just trying to bring it for kind of everybody. We open this up so that, because I want everyone to have their bite of the apple, second bite of the apple, and some of them got 3 today, which is fine. More public input, the better, in my opinion. And we don't have another one in August. I don't have the 23rd.
Well, we could do on the 23rd.
I mean,
Special
the
meeting on it.
August 23rd. Let's see if I.
Does the county council wish to give advice to the supervisors regarding what they made a comment on earlier that I had good faith with, please?
Well, I mean, that we hadn't even made a motion at that point.
I realize that, but I made an motion back to my wife to serve the county.
And I mean, I understand that. I screw up the calendar with my wife all the time.
This is a business professional of mine.
I understand that. And it comes with that too. We own a business together as well. And I don't want to put in that, but I'm just trying to figure out, we need to get this moving forward, or tonight we need to, I mean, I have, this would, yeah,
If I could just comment, we would like to move forward from a legal standpoint. We want to get this done too. We want to get the vote done. We were hoping it was done today. Clearly, that's not going to happen. That's fine. If we could get that August, I believe I heard 20-something out there, that would be great for this to be voted on and acted on that day, if possible.
so, we don't have a scheduled one, but we can schedule August 23rd or the 16th.
We don't have a motion. There's nothing precluding us from acting today because we had no motion at all. Am I right?
Chair, that's correct, but staff would definitely.
Yeah, if I may, just briefly on this. So, I mean, I think a continuance is appropriate. Again, I think the appellant made mention, right? This documentation was provided to the staff and the general public Friday and last night as well. So that is certainly new information. And this is not uncommon, right? Our job, we want to take that, we want to have time to digest that, prepare responses, and ensure that we have an adequate record for any action that the board may or may not take on the item. That was the crux of the applicant's request for that continuance. I certainly support a continuance to allow for that and additional public time. So staff would request that and believe it's an appropriate item for consideration by the board.
Why don't we just do a special meeting on, so we'll have other business to do and just do it on the 23rd? You guys?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to mention that'd be fine. I just may not be here because I have a jury summons for the 23rd. So if you don't need my vote, feel free.
That's on the 23rd?
Yep. And, I may not be called, but it's here.
It's a chance.
Yeah.
And the 16th, sir, that was okay with you?
The 16th works for the appellate's counsel, and the 23rd works as well, so I'll leave the discretion to the board. We would like, as I mentioned, we would like this acted on today. We did prepare for this. We submitted our comment letter in a timely manner, given the crux and the issues presented. We would like this ruled on. If not, we would like to get this heard as soon as possible.
So August 16th?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
So I move we continue this hearing to August 16th, 2022, 10:30.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez is absent. Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming down. We appreciate it. We'll see, I guess, most of you on the 23rd. So we're going to go.
16th.
16th, oh, okay. Now we're going to go to 6C.
6C, discussion and okay, taking a break. We are ready.
Okay, thank you. We all got our business done, so we'll go to 6C.
6C, discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Community Action Partnerships of Madera County in the amount of $110,500 for administering the Madera County Senior Meal Programs from July 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, and authorize the chairman to sign.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jessica Leon, County Administration. So the item before you is an agreement with Community Action Partnership of Madera County to continue our home delivered meals to the senior citizens of Madera County. If you recall, early on in the pandemic, we had to shut down our congregate meal sites. And with your support, we were able to offer home delivered meals. So we did partner with CAPMC for that. And now that things are returning back to normal, we are beginning to explore the option of returning back to those congregate meal sites. However, it is a bit of a lengthy process, which is why we are bringing this item to you today to allow us that time to thoroughly go through the process if that is what the senior citizens of Madera County choose to do. So this item is only through December 31st, which at that point we would come before you before the end of this calendar year to give you an update on whether the senior citizens choose to continue the home delivered meals or congregate meal sites. And I would like to point out that the recommended amount is for $110,500 as in the recommended actions, but the actual cost of the contract is actually $112,088. I do apologize, that was an oversight on my end. However, do keep in mind that this does not affect the general fund in any way. It is fully funded with ARPA funds. And with that, I am available for any questions, and I do have Maddie online available for questions.
And Chair, I would just add, if you caught her comment, move to approve as listed on the agenda with the edit
112.
088, replacing the 110,500.
So move.
Any discussion from anybody on the board? How
Chairman,
many of them do you deliver up in the mountains? Approximately?
So I don't have the exact breakdown. I can email that to you, but I do know that we are delivering 80 meals. We do have 80 seniors signed up on the program.
80 of them?
80 seniors, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
I
Judge?
just wanted to say that the correct amount was reflected in the contract that was posted with the agenda. So the 112,088 is on your contract that you're considering.
Oh, okay.
Typo for the agenda.
Okay, so any public comment on this? No one's out there going to say anything about it, so I guess we'll keep delivering food to these people that really need it, so thank you very much. Of course, I don't know if we have any up there, but I guess we do. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes,
Supervisor Gonzalez is absent. Vote passes 4-0.
thank you. 6D,
6D, County Clerk Recorder Election Supplemental Pay as listed on the agenda.
Move to approve.
Good afternoon.
Second, yeah. Oh, no, she said, good afternoon. Second.
Any public discussion? Any public, any of the board members got anything else to say? Roll call, please.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez is absent. Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you.
6E.
6E, public hearing pertaining to Measure T extension. Hearing to consider adoption of a resolution calling for special elections on retail transactions and use tax ordinance. Hearing to consider adoption of a resolution supplementing and restating the resolution established by Madera County 2006 Transportation Authority.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Patricia Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of the Madera County Transportation Commission and Authority. On July 12th, at your Board of Supervisors meeting, you received a thorough presentation from your staff on the Measure T Renewal Investment Plan and the implementing guidelines that was developed in coordination with Measure T Renewal Steering Committee. The Madera County Transportation Authority formed the Measure T Renewal Investment Plan Steering Committee about a year ago to assist staff with the development of the renewal of the investment plan. The steering committee was led by the co-chairs, Supervisor Frazier and Supervisor Poitras. Thank you for leading that effort. And also the steering committee consisted of a broad and diverse set of organizations and individuals representing different populations throughout Madera County. Elected leaders and leaders of businesses, agriculture, organized labor, healthcare, tourism, disadvantaged communities, active transportation advocates, and the elderly. The plan development included significant citizen input over the course of the year. That input included, but not limited to, mailers, public opinion polling, surveys, workshops, steering committee meetings. Included in your presentation on July 12th, you received information concerning the steering committee's roles and responsibilities throughout the past year, the guiding principles, the highlights of the steering committee and discussion and efforts, the public engagement process and strategies, public opinion polling, investment plan allocation principles, and also the allocation program and subprograms. At that meeting, the Board of Supervisors approved the investment plan and the implementing guidelines by resolution. In addition, the cities of Madera and the city of Chowchilla have also approved the Measure T Renewal Investment Plan and implementing guidelines. At the Madera County Transportation Authority meeting last week, July 20th, the Madera County Transportation Authority Board also approved the Measure T Renewal Investment Plan and implementing guidelines. And in addition, by passing that by resolution, included in that resolution is a request to the Board of Supervisors to consider the following actions. Call for a special election on the matter of the Madera County 2006 Transportation Authority Ordinance 2022-01. Consolidate that special election with the general election to be held on November 8th, 2022. To become law, the Madera County 2006 Transportation Authority Ordinance 2022-01 shall require 2/3 majority vote and approves the ballot question. The second resolution is to approve restating the extension of the Madera County 2006 Transportation Authority. I'm here before you today on behalf of the Madera County Transportation Authority Board with this request. Should you approve this action today, you would be doing so by approving the resolution included in your packet, calling for a special election on retail transaction and use tax ordinance. And the second resolution is restating the extension of the Madera County 2006 Transportation Authority. And that concludes my remarks.
Jay.
I'm sorry, Chairman, that's a carryover from the previous
Oh,
item.
I missed you all ago? God.
No, you got me, but it just didn't erase.
Okay, sorry. Any comments from the board? Seeing none,
I'd just like to say, I think that the Measure T program, the tax, has been one of the most successful programs we've had in our history. It has done exactly what it said it would do in general, what it could do, legally could do, and that was within our control. And the Citizens Advisory on that has worked very well. I know there's a lot of projects that would not have been done without Measure T. And we're one of how many? 28 self-help counties in the state of California. Without this funding, we've already got a deficit of funding for roads anyway, but without this funding, you'll see a lot less done in the future, a lot less. And it affects everybody that uses roads. So those that pay that tax, or even visitors who come in and buy and spend money in Madera County, they're using our roads as well. So it affects everyone who buys within Madera County, and it applies to everyone that buys within Madera County because they're using those roads.
We've had that house and sales tax since 1990.
Yep.
Measure A and then Measure T.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have some comments after public comment.
Oh, okay. Okay, we're going to open up the public. I got a couple on the online too, so we'll start here first. Who's coming up?
Can I just remind everybody to sign up on the sheet, please?
Sign your name up
Thank
there
you.
and your address, please. Yep. Is it turned on, Madeline?
Buenas tardes.
Yeah.
I would like to express myself in Spanish because it's better for me, so she's going to be translated for me. That way I can express exactly the way I want to.
And what was your name, sir?
My name is Tomás Chaires. I arrived in Fermit September 73. And me moví a Chowchilla en 73 y me envolví con el comité de Fermit Friends hace 15 años, por ahí más o menos. So.
I moved to the Chowchilla area about in 1973, and I got involved with the group Fairmead Community and Friends about 15 years ago.
Fairmead?
Fermit es una comunidad que está completamente en desventaja. La considero demasiado abandonada. No sabía yo que existía un % de taxes que todos pagamos, y me interesa demasiado la comunidad porque compré un pedacito ahí.
Fairmead is a community that I would consider to be completely disadvantaged and too often abandoned. I didn't even know until recently that there is a percentage of taxes that I pay into that are used for transportation. And I'm very interested in advocating for the community because I have land there.
Me di cuenta de que se recibe un promedio de 12 millones por año. Y mi pregunta es, en los últimos 10 años no he mirado que pase algo súper bueno en Fermit. Las calles están igual, no hay banquetas, nos falta muchísimo alumbrado público, nos faltan bordes alrededor de la escuela para que reduzcan la velocidad y sobre todo los anuncios donde la velocidad tenga que obtenerse de acuerdo al reglamento.
And I found out that it seems like there's an average of approximately $12 million per year that's generated from the tax. And so in the last 10 years, I haven't seen anything super good happen as a result in Fairmead. The streets are in really bad condition, and they are pretty much the same as they've always been. We have a big need for street lighting throughout the community, and there's a big need for curbs and bulb outs near the school to slow down cars, as well as signage to reduce, car speed near the school.
Si figuramos los números, 12 millones, 10 años son 120 millones, lo cual es una cantidad muy grande y que yo considero que si hubieran puesto mínimo medio millón por año en 10 años, pues estuvieran nuestras calles mejor arregladitas, tendríamos mejor alumbrado público, tendríamos un centro comunitario que es mucha necesidad para que jueguen nuestros niños, para que jueguen a los adultos que les gusta el fútbol o el básquetbol, y es muy importante tener ese centro comunitario.
And so then if we look at the numbers, if it's approximately $12 million a year in the past 10 years, that would have generated $120 million. That's a lot of money. And if we would even put $500,000 of those dollars in Fairmead over the course of the past 10 years, I think that our streets, our lighting would all be in better condition than it is now, and we could even, use funds to meet other needs in the community, like a community center, to have space for youth and adults to recreate.
Me gustaría saber cuántos de ustedes han manejado a las 8 o las 10 de la noche en Fairmead. Y se darían cuenta que cuando va uno manejando, a veces no mira uno ni la línea blanca, no miramos exactamente cómo viene el carro que viene en contra de nosotros. Considero que hay un peligro porque a veces tiene uno que como bajar la velocidad, decir, ¿por dónde viene esta persona?
And I would like to know how many of you have driven at night in Fairmead around, say, 8 p.m. because it's very dark. You really can't see. You can't see the, white line on the road when you're driving. You can't see oncoming traffic, and you have to slow down if there's somebody else on the road to kind of figure out where is this person going and try to make it safer.
Y hay una necesidad muy grande que en este momento, pues desafortunadamente con toda la sequía que existe en California, se nos secó el pozo y yo estaba compartiendo la línea de agua con mi vecino, pero me dejaron sin agua. Tengo un año aproximadamente que no tenemos ni una gota de agua. Tengo 5 niños viviendo ahí que me da muchísima lástima verlos. Cómo andan los pobrecitos sucios, que no tienen agua, que estamos sobreviviendo con botes de agua que tenemos que acarrear de fuera.
And then another issue I want to bring up that's a big need in our community is with the drought. Currently, there are wells going dry, and at my home, I've been sharing a line for water with another property, but they left us without water, and so for 1 year, we haven't had a single drop of water at our home, and there are 5 kids living there, and it makes me really sad to see them not having water at their home because at times, they need to bathe, or we're just surviving off of the bottled water that we're receiving.
But, let's keep to the road stuff. There's nothing we can do with this major water or any of that kind of stuff.
La línea de agua no entra en el...
Dice que si puede ser sobre transporte.
Okay. Bueno, este era un comentario como una especial petición de todos modos, porque es muy bueno que estén enterados de las necesidades de la comunidad. Y creo que esta es una necesidad que existe en mi comunidad, en mi calle, y que a propósito de mi calle está muy, pero muy mal arreglada.
Well, that's my comment, and I wanted to raise it because I think it's important for you to be aware of the needs in my community, and that is a really specific need in my community and specifically on my street, which is also a street that's in very bad shape.
Entonces me gustaría que pusieran un poquito del dinero que se recibe y que se distribuyera equitativamente en las comunidades en desventaja. Tenemos, por ejemplo, La Viña, que es otra comunidad que conozco que está más o menos en las mismas situaciones que la mía de Fairmead.
And so what I would like for you to do is to put the money that you receive from this measure and distribute it equitably amongst the communities. For example, Lavinia is another community that's in a very similar position as Fairmead, as my community.
Thank you. It's, you know, you're way over 3 minutes. I've been doubling it up because of this, but we're way over that, so one more statement, please.
Bueno, entonces me gustaría nada más darles las gracias y que pues no se olviden de la petición del agua, de todos modos. Gracias por su atención.
Thank you, Thomas.
And so I would like to thank you for your time and for your attention, and I would just like to underscore the petition I made to you about the water situation as well.
Thank you. You're going to speak now, Madeline?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Madeline Harris from Leadership Council. So I'm here today to once again ask the Board of Supervisors to stop rushing this forever tax to the ballot for November 2022, because we have until 2027 to put together a more equitable and community-driven transportation measure. This measure was shaped by a steering committee that was appointed without a public process. There weren't any in-person community meetings that were led by neutral facilitators or MCTC for that matter to get public feedback about what should be in the measure. It seems like we just relied upon any feedback that had been garnered through the past few years, but even then, we don't feel that that feedback was adequately incorporated into the measure because residents didn't get the chance to decide on what the duration of the measure should be, other than polling questions. We go to MCTC every year through the unmet transit needs process and compile a list of unmet transit needs, and then we're told that those are unreasonable to meet. But then it's frustrating to see that there's only 4% of the measure being proposed for public transit when the need seems to be much more than that. But at the end of the day, we really can do better than this measure, and we have 2 more chances to do that. And it's disappointing to see that the proposal that's been put together would only give Madera County voters 1 more opportunity to vote on the investment plan, and then the Board of Supervisors and MCTC would have the full discretion to change that investment plan without a vote down the line. And we see that as, stripping future generations of their right to vote on where their tax dollars should go. I want to be clear that we support having a local tax for transportation. We just think that we can put something together that's more equitable if we do this together and we do this right by going out to community and asking for that feedback. And then the other thing I want to mention is that we have some serious concerns about accountability because of the 12.5% of the measure that would be flexible for jurisdictions to use however they want year by year, and for the fact that jurisdictions can make future changes to the plan without it having to go back to the public for a vote. I'm also really concerned with the fact that I don't think the public has been adequately educated about what it takes to end a measure. So when we put on the ballot until ended by voters, are people going to know what it would take for them to put something on the ballot to repeal it? People need to be let know about that before they can make a vote yes or no on this. So once again, we're asking the Board of Supervisors not to put this on the ballot for November 2022, and we would love to work with you on a community-driven, more equitable process to put together a better measure for 2024. Thank you.
Tony.
Hello, my name is Tony Ward. I go back a long way. I've been here for a year, I guess. I almost could say ditto to the young lady who was in front of me here because I have a motto in my office, and it's been mine for a long time. My principles mean more to me than money or success. And when Tom and I are running against each other, I promised the people who voted for me that what Tal Claude said would happen. And I'll go back to that. I have an article here in 2006 which quotes myself, I was for Measure T after Tal Cloud had guaranteed that we would be able to introduce ourselves into any decision that was made by a 2/3 vote. Tom at the time, I'm going to quote you, Tom, I don't mean to embarrass you, but when they first brought it up, I was skeptical because of what happened with Measure A. So, but Tom went along with it too. So every time I read something from MCTC, they refer back to the Measure A as being the benchmark. Well, I've only got a few minutes here, but I'll give you 20 to 30 minutes of all the problems that happened on Measure A. And it was a disaster. It was over, but we had some things there, but what the people voted for, most of it didn't happen because they kept switching. We've evaluated, I say we, I'm representing Mock, and I'm also representing me because I made a lot of promises to back Measure T. We have dubbed the Measure T as it stands right now for District 5. I can't speak for the other areas, Roger, yours, and so forth, but it was a bait and switch. We were baited with two major items. One is SR 41, the passing lanes, and it states there from 145 to 200. Okay, they did build a passing lane from the dead tree with the termites to the fence of the doctor's building there. That was done. That's the easiest part of 41. But nothing happened beyond that. Okay? Again, why I'm here, I'm going to emphasize this again. The main lifeline for Eastern Madera County is 41. That's our life. We don't have, like down here where you can go to Fresno, all that, different ways. That's how we get to and from. So when we look at that, and we look at a report that was put out in 2020 that says by MCTC, it's complete. No, it's not complete. Not complete at all. At 406 and 41 should be a left turn lane there because there's a lot of rear enders there. We won't talk about Rocky Cut because every time I bring it up, everyone keeps saying, oh, that's Caltrans. No, it's the board. Okay, where do you want to spend your money? But when you look at what's happening on traffic on that road, you see most of the damage at Rocky Cut around that area. That needs to be talked about. I don't have much time, but I could get into that. Some of the agreements that were done before Tom and I even ran, where the Chauncey wanted to give money to help with that Rocky Cut. Didn't happen. But I'll go back to 406. That should be done. A lot of rear enders there. Been watching that. But for MCTC to publish to everybody, it's totally complete. No, it's not. It's 1/3 complete. Now, I was asked, what am I going to talk about? I am an engineer, and that's where I come into the next one. So on the ballot that time, we only had 2 Tier 1 projects that benefited Eastern Madera County. I just reviewed the one. The other was another 2 lanes on Deadwood. In 2013, it was determined that that wasn't feasible because too expensive and too difficult. I looked at it and looked at their excuses, and it's so stated.
Can you wrap it up pretty quick here, buddy? You're a little over, so just kind of wrap it up if you can.
Well, you know, I've watched today here. It depends who comes up here, who wraps up and who doesn't. Okay? So I would like to be able to speak to this because you have people come up.
I think you hit the yeah.
Yeah, and really, I'm representing a lot of people, okay? And we in Eastern Madera County have come up short. I know, Tom, you say no because we got the bypass there in Oakhurst, which takes people, the school kids, they put them on 41 if there's a fire, which is queue time to try to get out of Oakhurst. It's dangerous. We have a fireway to happen in that town. We need another 2 lanes. And when it's said that it's too difficult and we don't need to tie it up because of the bypass, no, you don't bypass while you're building. You build 2 lanes elsewhere, like it was done in Southern California and everywhere else. The point being, a lot of things are done in secrecy. And when I say that, that was backed up. I say Measure T here in 2006. It said that all Tier 1 will be done before you go into Tier 2. That didn't happen. They just keep changing it. 2007, page 9 calls for, of the MCTC's authority, that they will have a 2/3 vote before any changes are made, of major changes. Okay? But then, in 2013, the executive minutes show that was eliminated. That was an internal removal. Okay? And then 2017-18 grand jury reported the MCTC efforts of attaining input is insufficient. My review of the whole thing is it's been running without the input of the voters like we were told at the beginning. Before you make changes, there will be a vote. That doesn't happen. It's very difficult to even get information. Yes, Tom told us not to go to the meetings. We did up until COVID. During those meetings, it was interesting. It was like an incestuous thing with the group. And that's when I want to talk to the county council. How I went through many years of the Brown Act training every year I was here, how the executive committee can propose, approve, then the executive committee sits here and passes along. It's internal. They keep everybody, there's no external input. It's all within Madera's Board of Supervisors and the other 2 people from the other areas. But you vote for something, and then you go and prove something. It doesn't seem right on the Brown Act. You need to have some public hearings. Like the young lady said, we need to know more. So anyway, you want me to, I've brought all this data to back it up and saying that, yes, we need a Measure T. We need the voters to be more involved. And to summarize it, I'm saying that giving the MCTC a blank check with no voter approval is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And having one of the 14 Phase 1 major projects is totally unacceptable because the item there is ambiguous, doesn't identify specifics. If I was to go buy a car that way, I'd go buy a Corvette and they'd give me a Yugo. No, we need to know when we're spending our money what we're going to get and a time limit. Identify it. What is being published right now are all the excuses that can be used why they don't need to give you an answer for these 2 documents. I respectfully go along and support the young lady in front of me. Take time, work out a plan to include the people that if they vote on it, they can be assured they're going to have some input because they're going to rely on what you say you're doing. Don't bait and switch. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Next.
Hello, my name is Bruce Gray, and I'm representing the Madera Oversight Coalition. Start off with, I have a quick question for County Council. The board here sets 3 board members on the MCTC committee, and they rotate. And now MCTC is asking the board to vote on projects that they have actually been associated with and input on. Now, is this have anything to do with the Brown Act? Because They are internally invested in everything Madera County Transportation Committee is doing, and now they're voting on to put it onto the ballot. Is this at arm's length, or is this to do with the Brown Act in which it's too close? No comment?
Well, we're not supposed to comment to everybody.
Oh, excuse me. All right, we'll take it from there.
Because she'll do it then.
All right,
so.
good, no problem. I'll put it out there. Measure T, the final investment plan has not been reviewed by the public per document. In the investment plan, the new one, on page 21, it reads, all updates of the investment plan will be subject to public review and public hearings. I have not seen any public review or hearings on the final document, which was just introduced on the 20th. I believe it was, today's Tuesday, Monday. I looked on the MCTC website, and they had removed the draft investment plan and inserted the brand new investment plan, the final investment plan. The current the current Measure T will not sunset until 2027. I suggest, due to the above publicly unreviewed document and the forever tax issue, Measure T not be placed on the 2022 election and put on the 2024 election. This will give them a chance to contact more public people invested in it, and so we can possibly review it and create more public intervention in what's going on. I know the midterm elections have a very poor turnout, and I wonder if that's why they're pushing to get this put on here, because it doesn't sunset till 2027. I mean, that's a few years away. That'll give us more time. Also, I didn't know whether the board was aware that it's going to cost the board $180,000 plus to put it on the ballot, paid for by us. Okay. Just looking at the MTC engagement plan, community engagement process, voter opinion survey. This is what the lady had just specified what it was. They're saying that the voter opinion survey statistically represents surveys of likely voters throughout the county. I don't know what a statistically represented voter is. Next one was the community-wide survey. Residents are invited to take a community-wide survey via website. Okay, I don't know how they're going to get that. Countywide mailer. Countywide mailings was sent to all residents. Residents are invited to provide feedback via tear-off survey. Now they're talking about public mailers. This is the only mailer that I have received in the past 2.5 to 3 years. And this mailer that was sent out says that please join us on the upcoming online board meeting where the Madera County Board of Supervisors will conduct and placing a measure for renew on the current half-cent sales tax transporting. Now this is referring to an online meeting. Okay? This is suggesting that anybody doesn't know that your board is streaming. They think it's an online meeting. I actually called MCTC to find out about that. Was it going to be a board meeting or not, so I could attend? I got no response. Apparently somebody was out of town. Madera Oversight Coalition has quite a database. We have opposed several projects such as McCaffrey, Vulcan, several others. So we have quite a database. The past weekend or so, I had contacted 102 people, took me about 16 hours, and I asked them a little survey of my own. First one was the forever tax. Would you be willing to sign on to a forever tax where this Measure T would have to be taken off through an initiative, an expensive initiative paid for by the residents? I asked them what they know about Measure T. Okay, 14% said they knew a little. The rest said they knew nothing. Okay. What would make them vote for Measure T? They said a report card. Okay. I told them that this project has been on the books for 15 years, and they said they would like a report card. What is a report card? A report card is a flyer like this telling them what MCTC has done for the past 15 years, okay? They put passing lanes on 41 to help people get back as they're going up the hill. That's one thing they've done. What else have they done? Okay, they've widened Avenue 12. That was developer driven, but I believe there's part of that money. Anyway, there's a lot of things that MCTC has done, which is a good thing, but a lot of things that's bad about it is there's no voter input. So we need more voter input. Interesting events. I didn't think I was going to mention this, but I got a little bit of time. There was an issue with one of the items that was put on, which was the Project A, State Route 41 between 145 and Road 200. This is the diagram that was put in the 2006, 2007, 2013, 2017, 2021. This was still in there. This shows a nice red line from 145 all the way up to 200. That is suggesting to me that there's a passing lane all the way up there. Now, I don't know whether this is wordsmithing or not, but the way it read in the document, which there was no definite explanation of what it was just on a chart. The chart said, State Route 41, boom. Between Route 45 and Road 200, boom. Construct passing lanes. Okay, this is what was published. Okay, what would that lead you to believe, saying that and seeing this? Now, if somebody was smart, they would have done what the newspaper did, saying that there'll be construction lanes on 41 in both directions, along a 1.7 miles of State Route 41 just north of 145, from milepost 11.7 to milepost 13.4. That tells me that this passing lane is maybe half of an inch of that red line. That would have clarified everything. If we had more public input, maybe we could have corrected this situation, because I know a lot of people are, this is what they're going on, and they're totally upset, and they're going to be upset. So I got a lot more, but I'm not going to talk anymore. What I'd like to do is have you think about it, really, and why are we rushing into this? Is it because of a small election, or is it really needed? We need more public input. I suggest you stop this so we can get some more public input for the next year, 2 years, whatever it takes to get this right. This is a good project. It's money we need. It's not money we're going to get anywhere else. So I suggest we do it, and we do it right, and make people happy. Give people more chance for input rather than politically or developer motivated. Talk to the people, find out where they think this roads need to be, and then see what the group has to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Hi, John Perro. Awani. Mine's going to be short, so I just want to accent a few points here. There's an old saying: giving politicians and government more money is like giving more drugs to an addict. They'll never have enough, and they'll always want more. What do you call it when someone says, I'll sell you a 5-star resort for a vacation rental, and then when you get there for a vacation, you find out it's a 2-star hotel? If you promise the voter something and you don't receive, and you give them something else, it's called fraud. That's a legal term for it, okay? High-speed rail was an example of that. When it was passed in 2008, they promised a high-speed train between Los Angeles and San Francisco. Is that where it's going now? Where is it going now? Between Merced and Bakersfield, just where we really need it, right? And it's going to cost about 3 times as much. And it's still not done. I call that government fraud. And that, what happened there is what the voters voted for is not what they got. And that should have been rescinded immediately. And some similar things started to happen with Measure T early on. It was passed in 2006. There were things that were promised, SR 741 passing lanes between 145 and 200. They were claimed to be complete. We've already addressed that issue, but it's actually partial completion. State Route 41 between 420 and State Route 49 canceled because it was classified as too hard and costly. And then it was moved to 3 smaller projects without voter approval, and that was what I wanted to focus on. Measure T was created so that any amendment changes would have to be approved by the voters, and yet that has been removed. I think it was in 2013, if I'm not right. Well, how could they do that? This is what the voters voted for, and now it's removed, and so it's internally adjusted. We make the decisions internally. So now we're being asked to renew a Measure T in perpetuity, a forever tax. And from my perspective, this is completely insane and a recipe for disaster. I think we do need to renew it. I think 2022 is too soon. I think we can push it out to 2024. I think, as the speaker mentioned before me here, Bruce, we need to have more public comment. And we need to make sure that the public is involved in that, and we have to have voter approval on some of these amendment changes. And for criminy sakes, don't try to stick something on a ballot for a forever tax. It's got to have a sunshine, a stated end. It's got to have a sunset clause. Okay, something in perpetuity. I think the other thing I know in perpetuity is death, you know. So don't put that on there. And I guarantee you, if it's put on there in that way, I and many of my people will fight against it. Thank you.
Any other comments from here? Okay, we got some online still. Dan Metz.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
My name is Dan Metz. I'm in Oakhurst. I think there used to be a motto above you on the wall there that said, "We have the chance to do things right. Let's do it." This resolution is not doing things right. I'm asking that you deny the request for the resolution to place it on the half-cent sales tax on the ballot. I am opposed to a forever tax. It should be for 10 or 20 years, maybe. It is open-ended. There is no specific projects listed. So whoever the decision makers are get to make decisions about what goes on there. There ought to be annual inputs or periodic inputs from the citizens and broad-based. As it is, the bureaucrats have free license to do anything and whatever they want. That's not right. So I'm suggesting, and I agree with everything all my preceding speakers have said, starting with Madeline. And I realize I'm probably repeating things, but I think it needs to be repeated. No forever tax, no open-ended, no open checkbook, no free license to do anything they want. We need citizen input. Defer this until 2024 at least. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue O'Connor.
Hi, thank you. I totally support funding our roads, and I think a half-cent sales tax is a great way to do that. I am not in support of a tax that doesn't have an end date and doesn't have a stated purpose or project list. And so I really encourage the board to not put forward this measure because there will be many people who will fight against it, and that would be counterproductive. And to put forth a measure that has a project list,
You there?
can you hear me?
It disappeared for a second.
Okay. So I would recommend that you include the community councils that are trying to, gather together and participate, and then put forth a measure that we can all support and get behind and get our money for our roads. Because we all know we need it, but there needs to be an end date, and there needs to be a project list, and people in Fairmead need to know that they are going to get something from this, as do people in North Fork and Oakhurst and Madera and Chowchilla and so forth. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other online? No? Anybody else here? Okay. What's your pleasure, board?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Supervisor Poitras.
Very good. Thank you very much. Well, this is something I heard some people earlier in one of the earlier, maybe it was this public comment. It seems like public comments have been all day, but somebody talked about being passionate, and I'm definitely passionate about this particular measure. And there's been a lot of misinformation that has been mentioned today and talked about. And I like to correct a few of those things right now, and then go into a little bit more about what Measure T is all about. And by opposing this measure, how you're actually rolling right into the hands of the environmentalists, the so-called justice groups in the state of California, who you apparently, really trust their transportation planning. So the first thing is public hearing. We had 4 public hearings. We had one in the city of Chowchilla, we had one in the city of Madera, we had one here in the county of Madera, what was last week or the week prior, and we had one at the EDC. So we had 4 public hearings. Second of all, we had many mailers go out. We had more than just one mailer. We had one, our executive director, Tricia Taylor, was featured on. This was going back 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we had more besides that, inviting people to participate in public discussions. And there is a list of projects listed. Right. There is a list. There is a list. And it lists projects for the county, the cities, in the eastern Madera County, in western Madera County. And if anybody would like to see that list, we can provide it. And it's been at every public hearing. So I like to get those misconceptions off the table.
And on Facebook.
And on Facebook.
It's all over Facebook. You
I like to
can't go on
get those off the table right now. Okay, so transportation funding. The first place you go to talk about transportation funding is not MCTC, and it's not Measure T or Measure A. It's your jurisdictions. That's the first place you go to. You go to the city of Madera, you either go to the county of Madera or you go to the city of Chowchilla. You talk about projects. That's where projects are born. That's where projects are created. That's where you get the main primary input, because it's the jurisdictions that put all the work together for projects. It's not Measure T. If you look at Measure T, that's all about implementing projects. It's called a self-help tax. Now, I know self-help is not real popular here today because of the prior hearing, but this is way different. This is called money that stays in our county. It's not state of California money that comes periodically with all kinds of strings to it, or federal money, but this is money that stays here locally. It's to make sure we can get projects going. Now, I've heard people talk about that, this project didn't happen in eastern Madera County. This project didn't happen in Fairmead. This project didn't happen over here. Well, guess what? It means we still are short of money. We have of the counties, we're one of the poorest counties, and we have the 9th worst roads in the entire state of California, according to our PCI index. And that's with Measure A, Measure T, and these other things going on in our sales taxes because we're a very small county, we're very rural, and without Measure T, they would even be worse. So I'm not saying that this is the, is the panacea to all of our ills. It's not. But it's something that's going to help us move forward, and it is something that we have benefited from. And there will be mailers and education that will be going out about those projects that have been finished with Measure T. I've heard about 41's the lifeline of the mountains. You're absolutely correct. It is the lifeline. But I'd also, something I don't think that people here are aware of, there's something that the state of California came up with a few years ago. It's called CAPTI. Anybody here heard about CAPTI? CAPTI, C-A-P-T-I. Google it, look it up. And there's all kinds of interesting guiding principles in this document. And this is the way transportation funding is going to be funded in the future by the state of California. And we're doing everything we can do to fight it. Let me share a few of these things. This is how they want the money spent. They want to have building an integrated statewide rail and transit network. Okay, now, probably some transit could help out a little bit in the mountains, but, probably not rail. Second of all, investing in a network of safe and accessible bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Anybody here ride their bikes in the mountains, and is it really accessible, really nice? Well, this is one of the things that we have out of Sacramento that our transportation funding is going to be going towards from the state. We've got making safety improvements to reduce fatalities and severe injuries. That means road diets. Anybody run a road diet through Oakhurst? Want that? How about promoting projects that do not significantly increase passenger vehicle travel? That means no more money for state highways. You don't know what we're doing to fight to get the funding to increase another lane here between 12 and 17, or 12 and 7, and then north of here in the rest of the valley. And the same thing with 41. The state of California does not want any more capacity increases on our state highways, because you know what that does according to them? It increases development. And God knows that we don't want any more development, right? In fact, what they're looking for is promoting compact infill development while protecting residents and businesses from displacement. Let me see, I think we just heard about a self-help project that's going to be infill in Oakhurst that you guys really don't care too much about. Well, that's what the state's promoting. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but there's a lot of things that you are opposed to that is being promoted by the state of California. And the only way that we're going to be able to fight these things is to pass Measure T with self-help money. Believe me, we're not, there's a lot of these things because it's rural. We live in rural California. We don't benefit from a lot of these things that the cities benefit from. It's great to have sidewalks, and it's great to have bikes, and it's great to have buses and things of that sort. But because of the funding limitations, they don't work like that in rural California. We rely on our cars. People in eastern Madera County and rural Madera County, you rely on your cars. You don't wait for a bus to come and pick you up. You don't call and say, hey, 5 minutes later, here comes a bus. That didn't happen. You rely on your cars. And that's what Measure T is all about. As far as input, we've had the input. We've had our steering committee. We took a look at these things. We had people from all parts of walks of life here in the county. Why are we looking at this now, Measure T? Well, we've got to look at funding opportunities, and a lot of these funding opportunities are based on money that we can rely on. If we waited until 2024 or even 2026, it would expire, this measure would expire, and we would have not the opportunity to get to bond for certain projects or to even get certain projects approved because we don't know if this thing's going to pass. And I will tell you that we received a lot of opposition during the steering committee meetings from environmental groups. And they will not be less passionate in 2024. We've got increases in transit, I believe from 2% to 4%. They're going to want 8 to 10% next time around. So we can push it out there. We can vote this thing down, but I will guarantee you that whatever comes out of this in 2024 will not be what you want. And it'll be worse than what you expect and so forth. So I could go on. Again, there's a lot of misinformation that's being kicked out there, but it would be a huge mistake for us to not pass this here. And I guarantee you'd be playing right into the hands of a lot of the policies that you oppose. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. That was very enlightening. I know we've all seen all those, but most of the people, public haven't, and most of the public does not participate like they should be doing. I've got a couple of things I wanted to say too on that. Everybody keeps bringing up Deadwood, the 4 lanes down there. In 2006, when we was going around, like Tony said, we were both in favor of it. Everybody was. We passed it. Same way with Measure A. He didn't be part of that, but I was. And when we put out Measure T in 2006, Caltrans told us it'd be $23 million approximately to do that. Well, a few years later, when we were trying to figure out what we're going to do with that, they jumped it up to at least $100 million. $100 million. So we didn't even get that much in 30 years. So how are we going to do that when they don't even have it on their list? They said they wouldn't even look at it at one of our meetings till 2030. Exactly what they told us. And who knows what it'd cost then. If it cost in that it was about 6 years, it jumped from 23 million to 100 million. And we had public hearings on that, both here and at MCTC. And so people would know that what we were doing. If nobody came, we can't help that. We publicize everything, but we can't help you if you don't come to it. We did that Oakhurst Midtown Connector with part of that money. We did Road 200 Bridge, which is being done right now, 20 years later. And we did the Avenue 7 rehabilitation and projects that we could use that money for now. If you wait 10 years, it'll probably be 3 times as much. Just like the Road 200, it was going to be about $6 million. It ended up to be almost $20 million to get that whole thing done, not counting the bridge. And that was projects. Projects we've done with Measure A and Measure T was the 222 from 41 to Bass Lake. That was all, used those money. Years ago, probably when some of you weren't even around here. And same way with 426. We're redoing it now. We would have done it last year, except PG&E and CRTEL didn't have their vaults done right. So we had to wait to get those done. And we already got the contract. We signed them. They're going to start within whenever they get their stuff done, which is shortly, isn't it, Jared? Right. So we did that with those Measure T dollars. You guys don't even remember that because most of you didn't live here. We've done a lot of projects. I don't know about projects down here until I was elected, but I know this is just not for District 5. This is for the whole county and the cities. We all get to use that money. There was one thing else that they put on there. Why do you think we're rushing this? Just like I said a while ago, it's not rushing it. If you haven't got your that Midtown connection took us 7 years. 7 years from the day that we proposed it to start the work. It took probably 10, 12 years to do 200. It's taken 15 years to do the bridge. You don't do these projects overnight. And like Rob said, if you haven't got your priorities and projects going and what they're going to cost way years before that money is going to be available, you're not going to get them done. Bottom line. I could go on too like that, but I don't want to. We have all been involved with this, I think 100%. I don't think any of us has missed a beat. I don't know, County Council, if we vote to do this today, can we change that forever tax to like a 20-year tax? No. We can't?
No, because the investment plan and the entire recommendation has come before MCTC. You'd have to go back to all the other agencies.
And we wouldn't have time to get it back on the November ballot.
I don't think the timeline would work for that.
Right.
Again, yeah, this is, the voters are going to vote on this and say yes or no to it. We'll, you know, I don't want to lose it, but if it has to come back in 2024 because the voters said no, we'll no. Based on the polling, it doesn't seem like that's going to be, but at the end of the day, it's still not up to us. It's up to the voters to determine whether or not this is accepted. I know a big part of why, or not a big part of why it's going, but just an example of why it's going right now. We're trying to get the funding for the 41 expansion, and with the feds, it needs to have the knowing that this is there and in place. They want to see what happens with the vote for us to be able to go forward on that. That's just one small thing, but it's something that's very important to everybody in this room, and all the different people that we represent. So, you know, it's not because there's never a time that's easy to pass a tax or even re-up a tax, whether it's the midterms or presidential. Everyone, all we see is our voter numbers continue to go up every single time, whether it's everyone is much more engaged now than they've ever been, and that's a good thing. That makes our policy better in the end. So as the co-chair, I move to approve 61 and 2.
I'll second it.
You guys got comments?
Yeah, good afternoon, Supervisor Jared with Public Works. I just wanted to add a quick comment because I know that a lot of the question is surrounding and concerns are why now? And, you know, I think some of you touched on it, and I happen to know that folks from some of these groups that are speaking have made points to us about the planning for the future of this county, whether it be transportation, solid waste, whatever, that we need to be looking forward and far into the future. And we need to be able to do that. The Citizens Oversight Committee has been in place. When we talk about report cards, they do a report every year that goes out to the public regarding Measure T and what's been done with it. And at the last Citizens Oversight Committee, which was just last month, we had the question that was asked by one of the committee members of all the agencies, what would you do if this doesn't pass? And I can tell you, every single agency, the response was, we would drop a big list of projects. Everything would go away because we can't rely on it and know that it's going to be there for the future. So I think it's important to understand that the future of our county has to start now. It can't wait and wait and wait and wait until the last minute because, as you pointed out, some of these projects take many years to get going. And in some cases, we're missing out on funding. Supervisor Frazier mentioned 41. Absolutely. Have we had Measure T, an extension of Measure T in place today, we could leverage close to $100 million for that project. So, you know, the opportunities that we are given and that we have with Measure T and the extension of Measure T specifically is huge for the future of this county. So, and I know I've shared all the numbers on our network and the size and what it takes, but you know, it's a lot of people, not just the county, it's the cities and everybody else, you know, including the future drivers of this county. So thank you.
And I do want to share also in the steering committee, a lot of times the question kept coming up, should we make this a full cent sales tax or 3/4 cent sales tax, just to get it to be even more? And, you know, that's just how bad this is needed. It's not just, and we didn't want to make the tax even more, but I just wanted to point that out, that, you know, there was a lot of things that were thrown out there to, that you probably would have liked even less.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Matt Treber, Chief of Development Services, and I do apologize. I know it's been a long day, but I sat and I've listened, and I couldn't help but try to tag team a little bit on Supervisor Poitras, specifically on CAPTI and what we're seeing and the struggles we're seeing out of the state of California. And I wanted to certainly take a couple minutes to just make the public aware if they're not, right? We are fighting tooth and nail, and we're scrapping, and we're doing everything we can to get improvements out there on the 41 corridor specifically, right? In all of our corridors, but I'm just going to speak to our 41 project and the expressway and expanding from 10.5 to 15, right? 4.5 miles of roadway going from 2 lanes to 4 lanes in the state of California, and the requirements and mandates that we're seeing out of that, creating a $100 million project for a 4.5 mile stretch of 41. And we can't get a letter of support from the state of California for grant projects or federal, going after federal funding. The state of California will not support the county of Madera, all 160,000 people of us, trying to improve a state facility to the tune of $100 million, and we can't get a letter of approval out of the state of California on that project. That just speaks volumes to me, and I would hope it would to everybody, the uphill battle we're fighting in the transportation world and what we're seeing. It's scary out there on these. And I go to a lot of different meetings, we all do, and I hear from a lot of folks about the desires and the need for improvements, from pothole, right, and overlays and all of those things. And in every instance, right, and the work that's come out of the committee for this measure, right, and this extension, right, we've seen increases to public transit from what the current measure is. We've seen significant increases on road maintenance from that. So I just wanted to point out the constant battle, and I don't see it getting better. And so without Measure T, I don't know what the answer is, other than it's not good. So I just wanted to put that in the record. Thank you.
Yeah, when we did our management study, the need was somewhere near $846 million. And now it's over $2 billion because of the cost of projects. The cost of asphalt is an oil product, and you know what has happened with gas and oil. And it's not going to get any better. No. And if it's just shocking to me that we don't want to do for ourselves what the state will not do. If we don't do this, we're gonna be the ones that suffer. We're going to suffer. It's not going to be pretty. Our roads are not going to be taken care of, period.
Okay, roll call, please.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Chairman Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez is absent. Vote passes 4-0.
I have nothing to report.
Yeah, you don't.
Just so you know.
Any pending legislation?
Attended the RHA.
Any pending legislation?
No report on pending legislation. However, we do have agenda review when this meeting concludes. Thank you.
Yeah. You got any, you said none? Rob, you got any report?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Jay? Nothing?
No, sir.
No report, Chair.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Chris.
So you're thinking not a Brown Act question, you're thinking conflict of interest. Okay, so Brown Act, I just want to